This interview was recorded at the World Fantasy Convention held in Toronto, Ontario in 2012. Hello all. Today I'm at the World Fantasy Convention in Toronto, Ontario, where I'll be interviewing David Sakmyster. Hi David, how's the con treating you?
Hi, it's great so far. Treating me well.
That's good. Could you tell the folk a bit about your work?
Okay, so I've been writing for about 10, 15 years. More than 15 years. I started off doing short stories. I have an interest in a lot of genres, from thrillers and mysteries to science fiction, horror, and fantasy. I started off with short stories and I got a bunch published in various magazines, won some awards, and got into novels. I have a couple recent ones that just came out, supernatural thrillers. One's called Blind Spots, another Crescent Lake, which is kind of like a small town horror one. Blind Spots is all about people who have face blindness who can spot each other out in a crowd, which is a rare thing for people with this condition, and there's a supernatural force that's obviously threatening them. I also have a series about psychic archaeologists in kind of a Da Vinci Code manner. They look for ancient artifacts and can peer into the past and things like that. So I also get into screenplays too, so I got a little bit of everything.
So you have 3 novels and some screenplays on the go?
Yeah, I actually have probably about two other novels, so 5 novels altogether, a couple earlier ones, 3 in that series with psychic archaeologists, and these 2 as well. So.
Oh, cool. Impressive.
Thank you.
Do you have plans for any new literary works?
Yeah, I'm always juggling a few literary balls in the air at a time. I'm working on one right now that's deals with people with near-death experiences and how they cope coming back to the real world, and there's of course a supernatural element that has followed them back. So I'm in the middle of that, trying to wrap that up by the end of the year, and a couple short stories that I've been asked to write for some anthologies. So I'm trying to work those out as well.
Where could people access your work?
I've got several publishers. Variance Publishing is one. They have a website, variancepublishing.com. Crossroad Press, and of course Amazon carries all my titles. Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, and Smashwords. Ebooks as well as print.
What is your formal education, and how much does it influence your writing?
I actually have a master's degree in finance, which is completely the other way from my writing, but it's something I was parallelly interested in, the left brain, right brain kind of thing, and I kind of kept that just so it pays the bills, but at the same time, at work, you talk to people, you see the different dynamics between characters, and some of that has made its way into my work, especially when I'm writing bureaucratic scenes or bits about financial schemes and things like that. I've worked some of that in, but for the most part, I try to keep those worlds separate and use my imagination for the.
So you understand better than most of us the mess they've made of things.
Oh yes.
Okay. So, do people that you've actually worked with ever show up in your work? I mean, in altered form, obviously.
Yeah, they. Sometimes I've used their names, but haven't really described them to a T. But people will be like, "Come on, put me in your work," and I'll be like, "Okay, but I'm going to kill you, and it's not going to be pretty." So that's how they wind up there.
I do that with the people I don't particularly like.
Right. Well, I figured then they won't ask you again to put you in their work.
Smart. Does your writing shift around much in the speculative fiction genre? What I mean is this. I write fantasy, paranormal, and science fiction, and I'm wondering what your literary venues are within the spectrum of speculative fiction.
Yes, I do jump around a lot. It depends on the idea and where it takes me, but I've done modern day thriller with the psychics involved. I've done a supernatural horror, evil lurking in a town. I've actually have a science fiction novel taking place in a different solar system. So I do bounce around quite a bit. I'm more comfortable with the present day, as realistic as possible with just some supernatural or science fiction elements in it.
Do you find it challenging to shift between subgenres?
Yeah, that's why, especially with science fiction, that one really challenges me because I have to be in the right frame of mind. Usually, I read a couple books in the field before I do that, but the ones that are more present day, contemporary, just with some unusual events thrown in and exciting adventure and things like that, I'm very very comfortable with. I think it's more challenging to me to switch between conventions and styles like the short story than the novel and the screenplay. I really have to focus and get in the mode for that.
We were co-panelists on the With of the Dark Arts panel. The guidebook description for that panel was, psychic detectives were popular throughout much of the 20th century, and in the 1960s, the novels of Dennis Wheatley played heavily on the black mass and other occult practices. Do psychic detectives still have legs in the technological world of the 21st century? The overtly occult is more common in secondary worlds. Why is this? And will psychic detectives and the dark arts make a comeback? Can you summarize your thoughts on that panel's theme for us?
Yeah, it was a tough one. We kind of struggled a bit with it, especially because they kind of pigeonholed you into a belief that the dark arts and occult practices have gone by the wayside and need a comeback, or may not be able to have a comeback. And I think there were a lot of examples that we brought up that show that they've been around and alive and well, and it's just taking different forms and come to different settings. And I think that was our conclusion, that they still have legs. They're doing well. They've morphed and adapted, and I think they're improved in many ways too.
Agree completely. Yes, I am not a professional interviewer, folks.
Don't quit the day job.
Do you draw heavily on your own life experiences when you're writing?
I get that question a lot, but not so much. I think I'm more on in the writing side. I just use my imagination a lot. I can empathize with people in the stories, read a lot of news, watch TV, and I can say, okay, what would I do in this situation? Or you read about a new invention, or you extrapolate and then put characters in there and try to imagine how they would behave. So it's more where the imagination takes you, I think, and being able to come up with stories.
Fair enough. What do you think is the obligation of the fiction writer in the current era?
I think probably the same as any era. You want to entertain first and foremost, and to do that, you've got to really create believable worlds and have enough familiarity so that the reader can get lost in those and leave their own worlds and troubles for a time, and maybe find that you present them with something far more horrible than their own lives, so they feel better about themselves, as well as being entertained and possibly learning things at the same time.
If fiction is worse than some people's lives, you have a sick imagination.
Yes.
Of course, generally speaking, people are the authors of their own misfortunes, and not all the time, but where do you see the publishing industry heading in the next 5 years?
There's been so many changes. I'm trying to keep up with them all myself and trying to adapt. The big change I'm seeing is that the print sales are just dropping phenomenally as people get more comfortable in using the iPads and Kindles and Kobos and just having more fun reading and packing things in on their devices. So I think that's going to shift not only reading patterns, but pricing and publishing, and more authors are doing things more themselves, and the power is actually shifting back more in authors' favor in some cases. So we have to be ready to take advantage of that. I think it's a good opportunity, and hopefully more people will be reading and drawn to our work.
Can you give us a web address where we can get more information about you?
Yeah, so I'm at www.sakmyster.com. It's SAKMYSTER.com, and I've got links there to some free samples of stories and books, as well as ordering information and other exciting links.
Okay, can you give us that address again?
Yes, it's sakmyster.com, sakmyster.com.
Oh, thank you for your time. This interview brought to you by the works of Stephen B. Pearl, the finest in speculative fiction. For more, please visit my website at www.stephenpearl.com. That's www.stephenpearl.com. Happy reading!